Welcome to the party, pal. This is Fountainhead Forum 34. I have Tatiana Moroz, who is a lovely and talented musician and a longtime libertarian. How are you, Tatiana?
Very well. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Yes. How did you become a libertarian?
Um, well, bit by bit, little by little. No,
Note by note.
I think really, I grew up going to Warsaw, and Poland in general as a child, and so early on, I was really thinking a lot about how the world was organized and how to have, the best outcome. Um, I would go to Warsaw and I would have to stand online to get a toy. And, you get like some kind of ticket, and then like they only have a couple things. And then in America, you go to Toys R Us and there's, walls of Barbie, and 50 other kinds of dolls. So, I mean, even on a really simple kids level, there was obviously a better improvement of the United States versus Poland. I also remember going up to my mom as a kid and saying, "Mom, why don't we put all of our money into a pile, and then, whatever everybody needs, they could just take from it. And then that's it." And she says, "No, Tanya, that's communism. It's not going to work." So, no communism for me. I grew up reading a lot of different dystopian novels. So, 1984, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451. And of course, that scared the heck out of me. And I spent a lot of time also reading, just to become more well read. And I was always very politically active. I was interested in Cat Stevens and like those singer songwriters that had a message. But it was really when I learned about the Federal Reserve when I found out who the real enemy was. And I think that would be the point where I went from Dennis Kucinich to Ron Paul, because before that I had been really interested in Dennis Kucinich's campaign in 2008. I liked Ron Paul, but I didn't understand why you wouldn't want something like the EPA. Like, doesn't he just like hate the environment? What's wrong with this guy? Or universal health care. I didn't know about that yet. So, but once you learn about the Federal Reserve and you get an understanding of the financial system, also, reading Atlas Shrugged. I mean, it's the Fountainhead show, right? So I think along that path, it's just the logical choice.
So when exactly was that you were going to Poland? Would that have been the 1980s or the 1990s or?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Because I was going for many years, and overall throughout my whole life, I've been going to Poland. So yeah,
Or
it was a very long
before or after the
there.
wall came down? Yeah, the
Yeah, like
Berlin Wall.
people think of, there's like some big one moment where all of a sudden Poland was free, but it was a lot of I don't know, it took a lot of time for that movement to take off, and there was also a lot of corruption. I was recently in Warsaw, in September and also in November when I was filming my music video, and I was learning a little bit more about that. So my friend is really quite versed in that. Next time I go to Poland, I'm going to give him a little bit more quizzes about it.
Yeah. So do you have still have some uh, family there in Poland or?
Yeah, no, I still have I have several family members all around Warsaw, pretty much. Not many people anywhere else. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I have anybody anywhere else except for Warsaw. So, which is a shame because then I don't have an excuse to go to Krakow, which is really lovely.
Yeah, Warsaw. Yeah, Warsaw can be nice. By the way, a lot of museums are free on Thursday in Warsaw. I don't know. I don't know when that started, but that's definitely if you're going to Warsaw, make sure you're there on Thursday. Yes. So, how are they feeling right now about what's going on with the war? Your family in Poland. I mean, I think they're almost all with the Ukrainians on this, right?
Um, you know, yeah, I would say so. I think that people who are in Poland are very. It was weird. Like you couldn't get even any kind of Twitter feeds that had anything Russian in them. So it's very, very controlled, which I find disappointing. Um, I don't really love that Poland is involved with this war. On the one hand, I'm appreciative of their ability to support the refugees 100%. Like, that's a really beautiful kindness. I don't think that I don't think that propping up the war in Ukraine is good for anybody, right? I mean, people are dying on both sides, and there doesn't seem to be an interest in peace from Zelensky's side. So Poland is oftentimes, you know, kind of stuck in the middle, right? And I would prefer for it not to be in this case. It's really very, very scary times. So, when I went there, I even thought to myself, is this the last time Poland and Warsaw is going to look the same? I have a dear friend here who's Ukrainian here in Miami, and her city has been completely destroyed. So I can't even imagine something like that. So when I was going back there this time, in the context of the current war and with the threat so close by, it was really something. Um, yeah, I mean, I didn't hear a ton of anti-Russian hatred, particularly from the people or anything. But I mean, they definitely think that Russia is the aggressor, and Poland has had a very dark history with Russia and with the Ukraine for that matter. So I don't know. It's very hard to tell what's going on, but people are certainly not being given two sides. And I certainly don't know everything at all. So, it would just be nice to have more information access for everybody.
Yeah, and I don't think very many people know about the history of Poland with Ukraine, unfortunately. But I know
Yeah,
there
I
was
mean,
the war after there was the war after the end of World War One, and of course and of course how many Americans know about the Battle of Warsaw?
what do you mean, like the Warsaw Uprising?
No, no, the Battle of Warsaw, which was sometimes called the Miracle at the Vistula.
No, I don't know. You tell me.
That was in 1920 when they defeated the communists in Warsaw.
See what I mean? People don't even know
Yeah,
their own history.
yeah,
I
it
mean,
was.
that's part of why I went there, was to try and learn a little bit because
Mhm.
I don't know, history, you kind of gloss over it when you're a kid. You go to school, you're like, all right, Nazis bad, this one good, yada, yada, yada. But now, with everything happening in that region, it seems much more relevant to kind of know some more of the details. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of different stuff. I was more focused on the Warsaw Uprising when I was making my music video, just like that story to me really resonated.
Yeah,
Um, and my grandfather's sister, she was in the Warsaw Uprising, so she fought in it. And in general, Polish people, I think, have a lot of bravery, and I don't know, they don't want to take any crap from anybody. So I think that's a nice place to be from in that regard, But I'm also a quarter Ukrainian. So the main thing that I know about the Ukraine that gave me pause around the war was number one, that they sided with the Nazis. So that's probably a thumbs down. But there was also a movie called, I think it's called Hatred, and it's a city called Volin. And I've been kind of trying to gear up to watch a film about this because it's supposed to be a really, really good movie. And they translated it into Hatred. And apparently, 100,000 Polish people were slaughtered very, very brutally. And, you hear this, and like, I don't have 17 hours a day to study this, right? So I just hear about that. And so when I went to Poland, I was thinking, like, they never apologized for what happened with Poland, right? So it just struck me as very strange that people would be yippee ki laying in Ukrainians if there was their grandparents were murdered by them or something. And so I spent a fair amount of time thinking about that, how much responsibility we have for the sins of our fathers and mothers. I mean, here in Miami, there's a mix of different kinds of people, and it's mainly Latins, right? All Latin people. It's very, very flavorful, but you miss that kind of Slavic culture. So when I see a Ukrainian person or a Russian person or a Polish person or something in between, I don't think of them through the lens that our grandparents saw them, right? I see them as like, oh wow, we're kind of similar. Let's try and find some pierogi or similar, like pelmeni, whatever, because the food is still kind of like the same in some ways, right? So I don't know. I'm just trying to think about how to make peace with the past and how to not make the same mistakes going forward. I've made a lot of music that's political in nature, and I consider myself responsible for that message of peace and liberty in a lot of ways. So I have to be really thoughtful about how I present things. When the Ukrainian war was first, promoted, right? The natural reaction is, oh my God, Russia is an a-hole, right? Like they're terrible. But then you kind of learn about, what's been going on there since 2014. And then about how NATO is getting slowly closer and there's just no repercussions for that. And actually, Tone Vase, who's gotten a lot of guff for this from his community, he's a very popular crypto trader guy, but
Yes.
he's both Ukrainian and Russian, and I think he may be even Jewish. And he's very, very smart. He's not afraid of saying what he thinks. And so he was over one day. I was like, yo, so what do you think of this crazy thing? And he's like, well, actually, he's actually on Team Putin with this one and saying that Putin is fighting the globalists. I was like, what? That guy was the CIA and, whatever, KGB, scary, scary. And then, you go down the rabbit hole and you find out, well, it's a little bit different than what you think. And I don't know which side is right. I would like the side to be, the one that puts down the weapons, right? Like I want everybody to come back to a negotiating table. This is insane. But the reality is I think that we're all dealing with a framework that's a little bit outside of our control at this point, right? It's like there's some big creepy plans being kind of, the levers are being pushed and we're just along for the ride. But I don't think the people want war. I'm going this weekend on February 19th in DC. I'm super excited. There's going to be an anti-war rally. So it's bipartisan. And I think it'll be really much more poignant now than ever, because I never thought that we would be on the brink of nuclear war in our lifetimes. I think it's absurd. And I'm glad to be a part of the people dissenting.
After the events of 2020, I've which aren't necessarily about war, I'm convinced that that the occupants of this world are much more violent and sadistic than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, I've been very disappointed in that regard.
And well, the vaccinated want to have a war against the unvaccinated, or
yeah, I mean, I'm on team.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you even come back with people after? I've always really preached unity in my messaging, and like I try to stay away from more controversial things on certain occasions because I think about the greater good, right? And you can choose to focus your energy on anything, but after COVID, there was this complete and total, well, I mean, a lot of, let's just say on an interpersonal level, right? It was like, they're afraid, all of their fears are validated, anything that they want goes. But in the meantime, like I'm on the other side, like, hey guys, we have a lot of really big concerns going on here outside of just this disease. Like, what about, the implications for the economy? What about for, bodily autonomy? What about, that pesky Nuremberg Code? And nobody cared that, it's very upsetting for me, like me representing that side of people, right? To watch everybody doing this, right? Like we didn't want to see all of our friends be forced into medical procedures that were untested. Like the whole thing was just a horror show. And so now you'll hear like suggestions of, oh, let's just move on. That article about the amnesty for the unvaccinated and the vaccinated. And it's like, well, actually a lot of people were murdered and nobody's even said sorry. And pretty sure you guys would do it again. So, it's a very hard thing to take. And it's made me a lot more introverted because I don't know, the exterior is a pretty scary place. And I think that, if you look at things on like a really, really tiny level, or if you look at them from a really, really big distance away, there's a lot of different places that you can live, right? And so the thing that's constant is your internal world. And so that's why I've been trying to quietly make sense of things within myself without any kind of tethering to the real world, because the real world has spun out of control. I mean, like there could be aliens this week and I'd be like, damn, I have my money on war, and it wouldn't be surprising, right? Like all these strange things are happening and being revealed. I think like, self-reflection is really important. And I kind of put that into the record too. There's this one song at the end of the record called Not Awake. I'm really excited to share it. It's probably one of my favorite songs on the record for sure, but it's kind of different. And yeah, we're all going into sort of like an unknown kind of space zone. I consider myself to be relatively non-woo. Like I don't think in like don't think there's like ghosts and angels and stuff, like weird things like that. Like I don't believe in that. But now I don't know. I think that times have become very biblical, and the concept of like the age of Aquarius, where people are evolving and awakening, it's really resonates with me. Like I thought I was awake before. Whew, I didn't know anything. You know, I'm sure you felt similarly. Who knew where we would end up? Just a few years later.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. What was the general reaction among musicians when all of this started? Because all of these gigs got canceled, and I mean, they. I mean, the only person I've really heard from who protested Van Morrison, but what
Yeah, and
is
Eric
anybody else?
Clapton too. Eric
Yeah,
Clapton did.
yeah. Eric
So,
Clapton was more about the vaccine, but yeah, yeah, Van Morrison, and both those guys are old. It's
well, and
yeah.
then you had Neil Young putting his hat in the race.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, Neil Young.
well,
Don't get me started on Neil Young and the other three as well. Yeah,
well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, if you're the libertarian, you don't really have a lot in common with other artists, and they kind of secretly think you're racist or something, and then they're like being polite to you. And maybe they're really your friends, but there is a little bit of a separation, right? And there's a um approved like dissent, and there's non-approved dissent, and like people who speak the truth about liberty and a lot of things are not necessarily encouraged. So I wasn't really expecting much from the musical establishment other than what we saw, right? I like wept when I heard Van Morrison's song and Eric Clapton's song from Joy, because I was like, wow, finally somebody's doing something. It's like my soul was starved and I didn't even know I needed something. But the songs weren't even that great. I mean, they were fine, but it's just there's like nothing that's real anymore in terms of music in the first place. So um I don't know. I mean, we'll see what
yeah.
happens. I'm not really expecting much from the Hollywood community. They're bought and paid for, so.
It's a funny
I mean,
thing
I still
because
like certain artists and stuff. Like I don't know, but they're all on the take. So sucks.
yeah, and I gotta admit, I really wasn't a fan of Van Morrison at all, and yet now it's like, hey, I want to go pay to see Van Morrison. Uh,
I always love Van Morrison, so I was cool with that.
yeah. Do you think it seems in general that among the creative professions, musicians, actors, uh, uh, I suppose novelists as well, there seems to be an overwhelming amount of people who are socialists. Although I don't think I think it's probably more prevalent among the more famous ones than if you go down lower and get to the ones who aren't household names. But do you think there's something that attracts people who do creative work to socialist policies?
Well, the one answer is follow the money, right? Like you've got like the
Yeah,
whole propaganda of socialism being good for certain power structures, and therefore they incentivize it. But I think that most people who are socialists have no idea what they're talking about, and they are actually good-hearted people. They want they obviously like took the time to come up with some kind of a position, right? So it means that they're concerned about society. Socialism sounds great. Why wouldn't you like socialism? I came up with it when I was 7. The point is, the real world doesn't allow you to do that, right? And so I don't know how much time they spend thinking about it beyond just that initial impetus of wanting to help other people. It's very frustrating because their ignorance is the reason why so many people at one point or another you can put the blame on them, right? Because like socialists are so stupid for going along with this nonsense that a bunch of people are dead because of them, right? Because they're essentially like participating in it. um but I don't think that the individual is really intending for that, and I think that the brainwashing is very, very strong. It's not just in school, it's in every single piece of content that you consume. I mean, I can't imagine being blind to propaganda and watching television now, and how stupid I would be. I mean, Jesus, the amount of banal nonsense that they're force feeding down people's minds. I mean, it's I've kind of observed propaganda for a long time. I'm in entertainment. I like entertainment since I was a kid. I feel like Madonna probably wasn't really healthy for me to be liking her as a kid. Like, I don't feel like she was like a great role model, particularly. So I think about that. Um, I don't know. I mean, the whole model is very, very screwed up. And if more artists were being exposed to things like my message, then maybe they would change their mind. But they're not going to hear about it because I'm shadow banned.
Yeah, Ian, if I had a little girl and she liked Madonna, I'd probably say to myself, well, I've never heard about Madonna having any problems with alcohol. I've never heard about her having any problems with drugs, but yeah, I'd probably still be a little bit worried. But
Look, little girls aren't supposed to
yeah.
act like prostitutes. That's
Oh
not
yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
appropriate material for
Mm.
children.
Yeah.
Period. And everybody says like, oh, like the Christians are kind of overkill, and they're like, there's satanic panic. Oh, who's laughing now, everybody?
Yeah.
Like, it's getting a little creepy out there, right? And you've got a bunch of girls that have no father in the home,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're being shown, well, look, I could be like this pop star or that pop star. So I think a lot about how artists present themselves, how I present myself. I try not to cuss, I try and behave, because I think that it's important to have something that's a counter, right? I mean, every woman wants to dress sexy and be like woo hoo 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 hoo, but if it's every single time, it's just, first of all, it's boring, and second of
Yeah.
all, it's not healthy for anybody. It's not a realistic picture of what people should be behaving like, and I don't think it's making anybody happy. If you want to go wild and dress however you want, that's fine, I guess. But I wouldn't necessarily be super excited about putting that in front of a child. And for
Yeah.
boys, like, not just the girls. Like, I don't think that the boys are getting a good idea about what womanhood is from that either. I mean, then there's of course like the other options with womanhood and what that now. So we'll leave that one alone. But I'm just saying, like, it's a complicated world to know what's a good guidance method, especially if families are broken up.
Yeah. But something that I just remembered, and granted, this is a little over 20 years now, but I can remember Avril Lavigne would have mothers come up to her and they would say, "Thank you for wearing clothes." Because if you can remember when Avril Lavigne came out, she wasn't trying to be sexy at all.
No, she was annoying. I didn't really like her
And yeah,
music,
yeah,
but I mean, I agree. She wasn't but she was like another like dysfunctional little emo person. I mean, I wouldn't say that she's a good role model by any
yeah.
stretch, but at least it wasn't like a hoe bag.
But in a way, for me, that's kind of what made her sexy is she wasn't trying to be sexy.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know, yeah. She just it's like she just didn't care. And yeah, who are some women you've really admired, over the years, from any era or women in music that you really admire and look up to?
Nina Simone, I'm a big fan of. I think her activism was really maybe criticized. Was criticized
Mhm.
for being a little bit hardcore, and I would maybe say it's a little bit too much. But I love that she was like an activist. I loved her music background. I love her music itself. Like, her role in society, I thought was just incredible. Fiona Apple, I just always really liked her music, and I think she was, very like represented a certain kind of feeling in girls growing up that needed to be expressed, but she wasn't like total animal style. Um, I don't know. I mean, gosh, who are my favorite female artists? I don't know. I'm
Or
just trying.
maybe you had some men who inspired you. I don't know.
Huh?
Were there any men who really inspired you? Or
I mean, Cat Stevens, I always go back to because I just distinctly remember the moment of hearing Peace Train, because it's such a blatant message, right? Like, anybody can put it together, but realizing that, like, oh, look at what he's doing, he's like making me sing along to this. So I
yeah,
think that was really something that had a big impact on me. Big Stevie Wonder fan, but just because I like his songs. I don't really know too much about his career or anything, but he's just like a bajillion hits, so that's good. I know, like, some people had that tendency, I think, of like really getting into the artist behind the music, like but for me, that wasn't as much of a motivation as just the music itself, you know? Like I liked Guns N' Roses a lot, and I used to write, Guns N' Roses rules or whatever, but it doesn't mean that I don't know that I know who was in the band besides like Axel and Slash. I think there was like a Duff guy, so I mean, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great artists over the years, but less so now in terms of things. Like sometimes people ask me, who do I like now? And I'm like, I don't know. I like the new Miley Cyrus song. That's about it. I think it's like the greatest pop song of the year. I'm loving it.
Yeah, Miley's an interesting person. Yes. So
But look at her. She's actually a really great singer. Like, I think that,
yeah,
I mean, when I hear Lady Gaga sing, and I'm not saying that she doesn't have talent, I actually think that she is a real artist for sure, even though she's a weirdo. But like, I don't feel anything. You know what I mean? And I find that a lot of these pop stars, whenever I hear them sing, I don't feel anything. Like their voice is all maybe because they're all auto tuned or something. You can't really tell what their voice sounds like. Um, Whereas with Miley Cyrus, I think she's just got a really great voice. I gave her a chance when she did the Jolene, and then I got jealous
mm,
because Dolly Parton's her godmother. So lucky girl.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's one thing. I think it's hard not to be jealous too, because obviously she had some breaks that she wouldn't. I mean, would she be there if she wasn't Billy Ray's kid? You don't really know. I mean,
Oh, well, I'm not actually
yeah,
jealous of her. I think that she was probably molested and like taken advantage of. I mean, look at
yeah,
how she behaved for a while. Like I feel
yeah,
I used to be really hateful, especially toward like Britney Spears, because to me she was like the demarcation of the deterioration of music. Like she was the product, and then everything from there was like the downfall. Um, but now I feel like a lot of those Disney kids
yeah,
were victims, even though they benefited from it, and it's hard not to like separate their culpability because they did benefit from it. They continue to propagate it in a way, but on another level, like they didn't, have that autonomy, and sometimes they were like molested and stuff like that. So that doesn't really give you the best judgment. So I don't
yeah.
know. I'm trying to make peace with everybody before the rapture.
And in general, fame is not really a good thing for kids. I think it's because they get all this praise and all this criticism from people that they don't know. I know a lot of former actors, children actors, and it just messes with your head when you have people telling you you're great, but then you have other people saying, "Oh, she's terrible," and you don't know these people. Yeah,
Yeah, I like used to audition for things, and there were different points I think in my life where I could have taken that path, but I'm glad I didn't. Those people are kind of creepy. And also, I just find the self definition I mean, I enjoy acting. I think it's fun. I think it's a real art. I think it's really, like, there's a lot of really cool things about acting. But if you think about spending your entire life just taking on roles and just pretending to be somebody, it just doesn't seem like a very serious
yeah,
thing. That's why I like music, because music is, you write a song, it's there for eternity. You can use it as a way of, like I have this crypto person. He stole my money, and like I gave him money, and he was supposed to be my friend and stuff, right? And now I'm trying to go through arbitration, and let me tell you something, all that's like a nightmare too, right? And you report them to the agencies, and they don't do anything. But then you can have a song, and you can like really stick it to them with a song. And I think that that's like a really kind of like a good power that you can have.
yeah. Although you got to be careful. I mean, and then sometimes take a song like "You're So Vain," by Carly Simon. Another thing that becomes this debate for everybody is who is it?
But
That's
that's
one
what
thing.
makes that song so brilliant.
Whereas Taylor Swift, she calls all of them out by name.
No, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm actually considering making a special type of NFT
yeah,
project called the NFWT, no effing with Tatiana. I haven't
yeah,
quite like figured it out, but so this is the method, right? Like I write a song so far. I write a song because somebody does something really bad and there's no justice anywhere. Like you can't even find a solution. So I write my song, and then every time I go on stage, I dedicate that song, and maybe I tell a little bit of a story, right? Because who's going to argue with me when I'm on the stage, right? And I think that that's like my small little revenge. So I have a theory about this. I think that a lot of the guys and this is like a problem that happens everywhere. It's like not a libertarian thing, but I think like a lot of libertarian guys are kind of awkward. And I think that there's a tiny little fear that they're like, well, what if I'm doing this and I don't know that I'm doing it? Like they subconsciously are imagining themselves as a dorky guy that's making like a mishandled move, for example. This is now I'm basing this on a different situation, but like they don't really think of their friends as being capable of something bad like that, and they don't even think of themselves being capable of that. And like I've had guys give me like long speeches about how like they're into women's rights and like how they like don't want to like molest women and stuff. And I'm like, dude, you literally are well known for being a creep. Like this is, but they genuinely believe it. So there's this disconnect with guys, women, and then their perceptions, right? Because women are definitely getting creeped and groped and like unwelcome advances. But the men, they don't hear it from us when we're harping about, we're like, wow, wow, wow. They hear it like, like the horn voice of the teacher in Charlie Brown, right? Like we don't really truly get it. So I think you really need leadership from within the male community itself. But men have been so beaten down on the other side of things through feminism and like their toxic masculinity that they're just fed up, and they have a hard time finding like where they fit in terms of providing a leadership role there. So society's really in bad shape, but it's a very complicated thing to discuss without people inadvertently putting up their own blinders because they don't want to think of themselves as part of the problem, but they are. Most people are.
I didn't ask you since you mentioned the dystopian novels. Have you read Ayn Rand?
Yeah. Atlas Shrugged, but I never read The Fountainhead.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So Atlas Shrugged, it's because it was so long, you just didn't want to go for the rest of them, or?
I mean,
Yeah.
I got the point. I got like there's a lot of like things to think about. I'm pretty well read, and I just feel like even now part of I think my own like withdrawal a little bit is
Yeah.
like a boredom with the subjects of like politics and world organization, and I just want something, even crypto, like I just am looking for something a little bit more. I mean, I love those things. Those things are interesting, but it's almost like the same thing, like like self-help books or something, right? After a while, or like where they're like, oh, you have to like manage your feelings and like your expectations. It's like after a while, it's like enough with all this stuff, Like I like shrinking books and stuff like that, but after a while, it's just I don't know. I just feel ready to move on to something new.
Yeah.
The
Sometimes,
alienation will provide a proper playground for my imagination.
yeah, it's the realization that you're not really learning anything new, and it's just you already learned all this.
Yeah.
What can we do to get? What do you? What's your? What do you? Who do you admire among the more creative libertarians that we have right now? I mean, maybe
I know who.
Jimmy Vaughn or Jordan Page, or even a comedian like Dave Smith. I mean, who do you admire among them, right, among the libertarian creatives that we have right now?
Well, I love Jordan. He's been putting in the work. He actually called me while we were on this call. So, obviously I love Jordan. But actually, I've really been keen on Tom McDonald's career. So Tom McDonald is this rap guy, right? He's like a white rapper.
Yeah,
He like has like squiggles all over his face and stuff. He looks like a maniac, right? And he says very, very anti-PC things, right? But he's a really good rapper and his music's good. And what he's saying, it's not wrong. It's definitely presented in a way that's not a way that I would present it, but overall, like he's making a point. And so I observe how he's able to say very incendiary things and yet is still at least somewhat rewarded by social media and the algorithms and stuff. I think the reason why he's able to be successful is because people would normally maybe dismiss his message. They could say, "Oh, look at him, he's crazy. Look at his face, right? He's got all these tattoos and everything. Like, we shouldn't pay attention to him." And therefore, maybe that also is attention attracting anyway. Either way, I think it's a little harder when you have a bit more of a subtle message. But I'm not really built like that, so I admire what he's doing, and I like that he's able to say things that a lot of people can't, but I'm not sure I would say it that way. So I don't think his lessons apply to me as much.
Yeah, that's a big, big question. Should you be more direct or should you be more subtle? It seems like it.
Well, I am direct. I'm not writing kitschy songs. You know what I mean? Like some people are writing like to get attention and to be like, like I'm creating art that's driven by my soul, not by like a desire to get likes. Because you think about that, especially there's a lot of pressure on female artists to spend a lot of time making like this kind of crappy content, and it gets attention, right? But I don't want to spend my time doing that, so
It seems like we don't have that many libertarian creatives, but we have a lot of people who'd rather be, professors. What do you think we can do to get more libertarian creatives out there, more, whether it be more novelists, more actors, or more musicians, or
money, really that's it. I would say that one of the projects I'm going to take on this year should be around creating a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization, and that would be created for the counterparty community and Ethereum community, and it would basically be using tech from Tokenly, which is this Web3 platform that I helped with for the past 8 or 9 years, right? And one of the things that I'd like to do, since those tools would be open to the public, is set up some kind of a foundation or a fund where we would be able to fund those kinds of artists. I mean, people would consider me to be a successful artist, but I still don't even have money to get to this peace rally this weekend. You know what I mean? Like, if there are artists that want to go to a peace rally and perform, they should be able to do that, and if we want there to be more creatives in the space, then pay us. Because anytime, like a lot of times, I'll do gigs and sometimes people want to pay, a lot of times they don't. And it's like, well, where do you think I get the money to record an album for? Like, does the studio just give me that for free? Does my engineer work for free? Like, what are people talking about? You guys all love capitalism, but there's not a lot of support for the arts within our community. I would say, like, it's like kind of like a tepid support, but I wouldn't say that it's financial, and that the reality is that's artists need.
Yeah. Yes. So, it's well, some would say you're just successful if you're able to make a living at it. But I mean, I've heard, at least among actors, 3% of actors make money. Is it about the same figure for musicians?
Well, look, you can make money as a musician if you're willing to do cover songs, and if you want to do weddings and you want to do some of those things. You still won't make a lot of money. I think a lot of people feel like their song, like a songwriter isn't going to be particularly super keen on that, right? It's a living, sort of. But the problem is also that, okay, well, every weekend on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, you're going to be doing that, music gig. And I mean, I don't know how fulfilling that is, right? Like, you could be a music teacher, but like, what if you don't like music teaching? I think the music is the money is in covers. But now everything has changed because of technology and just people's ability to reach one another online. So you can monetize that way, but you can't if there's shadow bans. And I mean, the future in terms of Web3 should disintermediate some of that power, but we're not there yet, right? And in my opinion, there's potentially like more catastrophic events that would maybe take us off the trajectory for that. But assuming that the world doesn't fall apart, like, it would probably end up being, a lot more power for the artists as Web3 evolves.
Yeah, but of course, would you say artists have more power than, the days before the web at all? Because, I mean, before you basically had to go, get a contract with a record company to make a living, right? I mean,
yeah, that's true. I mean, there's definitely more impact now, but one would argue that you're a slave to the wrong things, right? Like instead of making music, people are just making TikTok videos and like trying to look cute. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't feel like that's like really spending time on your art. Like I feel like my whole entire life, all I've done is just try not to starve so I could do my music. And that suffering is just awful, and I'm glad that I went through it because now I can help other artists because I think it's a universal problem. Like I remember when I was putting out, when I was getting prepped for my new album Love Songs for Idiots, and we were putting out the first single. And I reached out to my producer, Will, and I'm like, "Hey bud, you're this artist that you're working with. She looks amazing. Wow, those videos, like, is she getting anything out of it?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "What do you mean no? Look at her videos. She looks amazing. Like, they're clearly she paid money for this. Like, she's doing gigs." He's like, "No." He's like, "She's paying for it out of pocket and she has no money and she's like crying every month that she doesn't know how to like keep it going. But that's what's required of you now." So it's like, what if you want to be like fat and ugly? Sorry, no artist career for you, sucker. Like maybe, there's just the whole entire thing is turned into not the right combination for real art, but art will find a way, and there's a lot of people that are able to take advantage of tech. I mean, you can't say like all technology is bad, like come on.
Yeah.
I just think that like the the forced participation in TikTok and all these other things, like it's just annoying and time consuming, and I wish I didn't have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of tech, you've done a
Not
lot
that
with,
it's a connection, by the way, just to be
yeah.
clear, it's not even like because sometimes like I'll do like a live or something and I'll be kind of averse to doing it. I love the feeling of connecting with people. That's why I'm still on social media. I hate the feeling that I'm playing in a rigged game where nobody's going to hear me and I'm screaming into the void and somebody's just like locking my voice into a box. That's the problem.
Yeah. Getting back to tech though, you've also been very much, working with cryptocurrency. How long have you been into crypto? What got you into crypto?
I got into Bitcoin in 2012. I was sponsored at a Ron Paul event here in Tampa, down in Florida, in August of 2012. And so the guys from BitPay, who sponsored my performance, they came up to New York and they told me all about Bitcoin. So yeah, I got my first Bitcoins at $11. And then, it was around the time where I felt like America died in my mind. Like I no longer believed in the system at all in terms of like picking a president or whatever. So to me, Bitcoin was a natural transition.
So you got into, so you first learned about Bitcoin in 2012, and you said it was $11 at the time.
Yep.
So,
uh,
so obviously you didn't buy a bunch of it and hold it or sell it, but or you didn't get rich in Bitcoin, I guess, or maybe you did and you just don't want to say that. So
I don't know. I mean, no, I didn't. I mean, how much money could I have as a musician? You know what I
yeah.
mean? But, and also, I've been living off of Bitcoin for years. So, I mean, any kind of investment going from $11 up on the way up is going to be good. But, if you're living off of it, it's not like you're just like sitting there hodling in, waiting until it goes up to 68 and then selling and then,
Yes.
right? I'm a believer. I think my optimism should be a little bit more tempered.
Yes.
Like every single time when it's on its way down, like, but it's so cool. It's definitely going to go up. And it does like 2 years later.
This is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. This is not tax advice. So, what other? So you have some projects going on though in the crypto world, though.
Yeah. So I have my marketing company. I have Crypto Media Hub. So we do marketing and PR. We've been doing a lot of different events, which has been really fun. I got a nice place here in Miami. So I've been hosting people having kind of like salons where I have some speakers and I'll do some performing. But yeah, I mean, really, my baby has been this Tokenly Web3 project just because I feel like it's an actual concrete solution. Um, but it's not that easy being early, right? It's cool because you get to say I'm first and people think you're cool because of that. But it's also it's very frustrating to be ahead of the curve and yelling and nobody's listening to you, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my god, listen to what I came up with, I thought this of
Yes.
myself. I'm like, no, we've been trying to tell you this for a while. So
Yes.
there's a little bit of a balancing act there, but I think the idea of having Tokenly do the DAO um, would be really in alignment with my own values, right? uh, I'm not sure that I would be like as excited about a Web3 project from a different company, but like I think that something that belongs to the community is a really neat way of, I don't know, forging the future, right? Like none of us knew what we were doing throughout this whole entire Bitcoin thing. Like it's all brand new. So I think the building part is definitely an important component of what you're supposed to learn.
Yeah. What do you think will what do you think the crypto world needs to do to take over? Or I mean, as I like to say, what do you think that the AOL for Bitcoin is going to look like? You know, the America Online, which is what got everybody onto the internet.
Um, I mean, a lot of people say it's music, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of projects going on. I think that I don't know. I don't really sit around and think about like winners or losers. I feel like that's like certain things that crypto people or Liberty people do that I don't do. And I think it's like a certain type of like a detail based type of intellect, you know, like I'm thinking big picture. And sometimes people, I think, like getting into the minutia. Like I like listening to some crypto news, but I don't voraciously consume crypto news. So arguably, sometimes I think that a person that's a newbie may be far more informed on a subject than me, just because they're like consuming that news. Whereas I'm more of a overall look, I'm an artist at heart, even though I'm in tech and stuff like that. Like I approach my life somewhat similarly, I guess. Um, so yeah, I don't know what it'll be. I would just like to see less socialists involved. Um, for me, that's the thing that's been the most upsetting is people who don't understand the concept of freedom. And people who don't understand why we Bitcoin, right? Like people who don't understand why central banking is bad. I would like them to leave or come back with a book.
Yeah. It does wonder, you know, too, is if you learn so much about your craft that you just don't have time to learn these other things. But it would be, and you know, it's yeah. I mean, there's a lot of rich people who feel who are socialists as well. It's really
Like I said, people they don't know any better. They've been and also people are creatures of like they're social. They don't want to be ostracized. It's very difficult to talk about things that people don't like, and society teaches us you're only supposed to talk about this, and common sense doesn't apply. 2 + 2 = 5. So, I mean, to give mankind credit, at least people are still waking up. I mean, it's very, very scary and dire, but at the same time, those really brilliant moments allow people to shine, right? Like in that really, really dark place when things are really bad, people have an opportunity for great bravery.
yeah. And it sounds like you're pretty crypto agnostic, as I like to say.
I mean, look, I'm definitely a Bitcoin girl. I'm not like super crazy
Yeah.
about other cryptocurrencies, particularly. Like I'm not really bullish on something. I mean, I like certain projects because I worked on them. Like I like the Horizon project. I think they're really cool. They've been together for a long time. They've got the right values. I could see that doing well, and some others. But I mean, to me, I'm more concerned with offering like I like Bitcoin. I like the idea that Bitcoin could be an off ramp from the global banking system as it collapses. I think it has the most likelihood of taking that place, and that to me is why I like Bitcoin. I mean, the tech is fine, and obviously the coin doesn't function without the tech. But like what Bitcoin represents is is not it's like a nephew to the system as well. Like Ethereum is like we are the system, right? I mean, but
Yeah.
Bitcoin still is very, very radical, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah. I'm wondering, you know, where I'm wondering more and more about what the whole point of Ethereum is. It seems like it's not necessarily it's like one Galt said that the most significant thing Satoshi did was he disappeared. So there is no person who leads Bitcoin or is a leader or is an owner. You know.
Yeah, that has some good things, but it has some bad things too, right? Like Ethereum is able to market itself really well.
Yeah.
Whereas a party, like, okay, take Counterparty. I made my Tatiana coins on Counterparty. I have like a bunch of old historical assets and stuff. Like that's on Bitcoin. So, but they didn't have a marketing budget, so they didn't do as well. They didn't attract as many developers. That was a mistake, I think. The original people were really not thinking about, it's like a thing I keep seeing in tech. It drives me crazy. Like these tech guys, they think just because they have a great idea that everybody's just going to come to them. And it's like, no, no, no. Marketing is almost more important than the idea sometimes, because if people don't hear about it, then, can't do much.
Yeah. There are a lot of things out there, that they realize that, the marketing, you have a great product, but nobody knows what it is. I mean, and some people may not necessarily want to get big, but marketing is huge. Any tech people you really admire or really think are villains? I mean, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about Peter Thiel, for example?
Oh, that guy. I don't know. He's libertarian. Sounds good to me. I don't think about Peter Thiel.
Okay, I
feel like Elon Musk. I've spent like a fair amount of time considering whether or not he's evil, but I don't know. Jury's still out. I think like he seems like a mixed bag. I don't know. Bill Gates, thumbs down. Bezos, thumbs down. Even though I use Amazon, I can't help myself.
I don't think you can really avoid using Amazon if you're a musician. I know there was also at least I remember one time I bought some music from a friend and it was from a site called CD Baby, and so then I get my CD and apparently they just do these print on demand CDs just like that. It worked really well.
The CD Babies they ended up getting acquired, but I mean at the end of the day, like the money's not there.
Yeah.
People don't want to buy records. And even if they do, they have to buy like a larger threshold. So, what it is.
It seems like to me, one thing that I'd look at, I remember years ago hearing about TLC, the three rappers.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the number one album in 1995. And apparently all three of them, the money they took home, they each took home about $60,000 individually in that year. And I'm thinking, okay, where did all this money go? Do you think there are there more people grifting off musicians now, or are there people less? I mean, if you sell if you sell a $15 CD, how much of that $15 do you get?
No, I get it all because I don't have a label. But if you have a label, you're not going to get much. I don't know what it is right now. Nobody's even selling CDs right now, so
Yeah, but I mean,
the label's also like taking a piece of all of your action. The problem is that give them a small amount of credit. There is a significant investment with a very low chance of a return on that investment.
Yeah.
So I have to take it with a grain of salt because it takes a lot to make an artist into a star. And essentially, like, it's like you're just, okay, if I were to run my life how I think it should be, right? I would say somebody would give me $100,000, like $80,000 or something like that, just like for a living, right? And then the cost of like trying to do art and stuff, I mean, it's just not like possible because you just need so much. Like, okay, then you spend, let's say, $50,000 in marketing for a record, right? That's like a conservative estimate. Then you spend 20,000 or 30,000 producing it, right? Like, when are you going to make back $80,000 to $100,000, which is what you just spent on it initially? Like, you're not. I mean, nobody does, right? Like, very, very few people do. So, that's why things like Web3 are important because, when I was doing my music stuff, I've been doing it for so many years. I've tried all these different platforms. And it's like all of my efforts to build up that audience were for naught because MySpace isn't around anymore, right? Like, what happened to all my MySpace fans? Like, I built up thousands of people on there, right? They didn't follow me to YouTube. Then my YouTube people didn't follow me to this other platform. So in a lot of ways, it's like I was doing all the things that I'm supposed to do, but at the end of the day, like, you don't still have much to show for it when you're done with it. You have the ownership over it. Whereas if I had been able to constantly build that relationship with those people, which is, why I made like something like a Tatiana coin, right? Then they would continue to support me. They would also get more value back, like, because then they would feel like they're actually participating in the creator's life more. And then, who knows what would be if I wouldn't have to be like having all my attention diverted in a lot of different ways. I mean, I've thought a lot about that, and it's really, really very, very sad to think about the potential that a person has versus what they can achieve because of simple limitations and because the industry is not really like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe if I was like doing like home music and like gyrating, like maybe that would be more successful. And you can make the argument that like, oh, that's the free market. But I don't think that the free market really applies in the music industry because everything is spoon fed, right? It's not like you're just given an even playing field of like, okay, Bobby, like today you're going to have like 10 songs and they're just going to be chosen at random. And like, you're just going to pick the best one. Like, no, you're told this is the best artist. Everybody's listening to this artist, and then people just obey, So that's why individual sustainability level, I think that's like the solution to have truly, free art. Like when I made Tatiana coin, I put Ross Ulbricht's picture of me on the cover because I wanted to make a statement not only about Ross, but also about my inability as an artist to make that statement. Because if I had a major record label, then I wouldn't be able to necessarily take that position. I don't have that freedom, and that's important.
Yeah, Ross Ulbricht. Yeah, certainly I'll stand with Ross. So, yeah, it's definitely in an interesting place right now where you get your music out there, and plus I can only listen to music 24 hours a day. I can't. I mean, that's it's only a finite amount of media that we can consume.
Yeah, and that's like the thing that's kind of changing, right? Like what makes it valuable if everybody is able to do it, right? Like look at modeling. Models used to be important. Now there's just like Instagram girls.
Yeah.
Now they're not even like real models anymore. So I mean, what will happen with music now that you have AI music being created? I mean, that's kind of crazy. It doesn't sound good, but it's very interesting.
I didn't think of that. I'm just like I don't see how it can possibly have the soul though.
I don't think it has a soul either, but I think it's coming, and most people don't know what soul is anymore anyway.
One thing you mentioned earlier.
I was in a room yesterday, and Rihanna is on stage. Look, she's not that great. I'm sorry, she's really not. And everybody was like acting like it was like the second coming of Christ. I'm like, she's not even singing. She's barely dancing. Fine, she's pregnant, but like, why is she on stage? Like, there's like this huge spectacle. Think about how much money was spent on that. Did anybody like feel anything except for like horny? Like, not really, right? Like, what are they going to feel? There's nothing in there to feel. You felt overwhelmed by the spectacle and maybe excited and stimulated by like the flashing lights, but like there was nothing in her that spoke to anyone's soul there. There was no like exchange of value there, like in that regard. Like it was just nonsense. So I don't know. People like it. People like stupid stuff.
We're going to get going here. So before we go, we're going to show your video. What you going to do? And obviously, this isn't that. I first thought of that song. What you going to do when she says goodbye? This is not that song. This is your original material, right? So.
Yeah, I have no idea what that song is, but yeah, it's a different one.
So this is on the channel Tatiana Moroz Vivo. If you want to go see this, and there's 27, and we have subscribers, and we'll.
Yeah, no, they just switched me over. Yeah, I don't have a lot of Vivo subscribers. It's only 27 because I was on YouTube before that, and then when they switch you over to Vivo, you lose all your subs. So I was like, oh, awesome.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's nice. That's interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so we will go to we'll go over to Vivo and play this. Yes. Yes. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
What you gonna do when they come for you? Are you gonna lay down and die? Tell me, officer, tell me, what did I do? Was it 'cause I was speaking my mind? What is the limit, and are we still in? Can we go and change? do when they come for you. Tell me what to do when they come for you. I thought we were free inside. Are you gonna wait? Will you be prepared when they set the world on fire? Did you learn the truth? I know that you're scared, 'cause who would wanna fight for a lie? What is the limit and are we still in it? Can we go and change the tide? Tell me what to do when they come for you. Tell me what to do when they come for you. I thought we were free inside. Answer the call, this could be the end. Defend our sacred ground. The devil will fall, he isn't your friend. Buying souls by the pound. What is the limit and are we still in it? Can we go and change the tide? Tell me what to do when they come for you. Tell me what to do when they come for you. I thought we were free inside. Give me your hand, together we stand. We'll fight side by side. God has a plan, come sing with the band. Open up your mind. What is the limit and are we still in it? Can we go and change the tide? Tell me what to do when they come for you. Tell me what to do when they come for you. I know what to do when they come for you. I thought we were free inside.
Okay, yeah, that was very good.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I hope
yeah,
people can, if they like the song, I'd love it if they could share it with their friends and
Yeah.
family.
Looked like you filmed that in Europe.
I did. I filmed it in Warsaw.
Okay, yeah. So, and you play the guitar. What else do you play? And you sing. What else do you play?
Mainly just guitar.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I'm
well,
not playing the guitar on the record, unfortunately. I'm not that good. Will and I have a really great band. We had a real fun time recording that. So.
Okay, well, thank you, Tatiana. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and go buy my novel, Escape from the Village. Tatiana's and your websites, and where do people go to find you?
They can find me at TatianaMoroz.com, and I'm pretty active on Twitter, Queen Tatiana. So they'll find me everywhere.
Yes, Queen Tatiana, and of course Tatiana Moroz Vivo as well on YouTube. So okay,
thank you so much.
and thank you, and we are out. Bye bye. Yeah.